o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Clarkdale Town Council meeting for Tuesday, September 26, 2023 at 3 p.m. in the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Roll call, Vice Mayor Hunsetter.
Here.
Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill. Here. Councilmember Jones.
Present.
And please note that Mayor Pridom Bauer is here. We have a quorum. I like to always recite our town vision as we get started, so we keep that in front of us always. The town of Clarkdale connects our unique history, proximity to the Verde River, and small town charm to a future with a vibrant economy. We cultivate an environment where residents and businesses can thrive, providing services and jobs for our residents and capitalizing upon tourism. We substantially enhance our infrastructure, support the arts and education, and develop recreational opportunities to create a bright future for our entire community. With that, let's go on to public comment. This is the first item on the agenda. It's time for members of the public to give comment of a general nature. No official action may be taken by the council during this time unless it is to direct staff to look into a matter. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes. If you're on Zoom, do we have anybody on Zoom, Charity? Okay. So I'll dispense with that. If anybody was on Zoom, they would just send it to the chat and our town clerk would have them speak at the appropriate time. So with that, I believe we have a couple people who want to give public comment. Rebecca Backus. Come on up and state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Rebecca Backus and I own the Park Hotel and Smeltertown Brewery. As most of you know, unfortunately on September 20th, about 11:45, we had a vehicle break-in. Bashed in their window. It was one of my hotel guests. Fortunately, in 3.5 years, this is the first incident we've had with either business, so I'm very happy for that. But my concern is I'd like you guys to consider maybe some additional lighting off on 10th Street where the bathrooms are. I have some photos if I can bring them to you. You can see how dark it is. And then this is actually where the guest car was parked. And you can see in those photos just how dark it is down there where the storage units and the bathrooms are. So I was wondering if we did some motion lighting, some cameras would be amazing. This is taking off of our camera from the corner of 10th and Main, and you can tell it's a long ways away, so it was really hard to see very much. But that's just what I'm asking for consideration. I've also seen several teens late at night being hard on the playground equipment, and I know we've invested a lot of money in that, so cameras would definitely help. And with the new park systems coming in, I just think it's time we have to maybe, unfortunately, protect ourselves from that. But yeah, I mean, my top priority is just keeping my guests and their property safe. So any consideration would be appreciated in this matter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Becky. Cynthia Mulla.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Mella, and I'm a Clarkdale resident. And I'm sure you're all really surprised to hear I'm here to talk about the bandstand. So, Madam Mayor and Town Council members, the response of the town government to the citizens' concerns about the preservation of the Clarkdale bandstand has been much appreciated. It's gone a long way to help heal the rifts in our community that have resulted for the controversy surrounding it. The updates in the town newsletter have been informative and helpful. You might want to do another one soon because there was an article in the press and the Verde Independent that contradicted a lot of what was in the updates. But I believe everything that the town is doing is in good faith. And I really appreciate that. The meeting at the bandstand on the 12th, I do have some concerns about that. That was a meeting with SHPO and the other entities involved in developing a plan for renovation. That's been really exciting to watch. I have concerns, however, about the Historic Preservation Commissioners not being included in that meeting. 2 HPC commissioners at the July 12th meeting would have been very helpful. It was a missed opportunity for all the experts to talk directly to one another. The commissioners have valuable and specific knowledge about the bandstand that's important for the people involved in renovating it to have. For instance, the fascia is not original. It shouldn't be repaired. It should be removed. The tongue and groove ceiling is original and should not be removed. There was a proposal to remove the ceiling, and so the public can see the hand trusses, and I'm sure they're really cool to look at. Undoubtedly, that was well-meaning, but it's not appropriate because the ceiling is original. And also, painting and maintaining exposed trusses and rafters would be much more labor-intensive than painting and maintaining an attached ceiling. In addition, exposed rafters would provide wasps and other critters places to nest. A better solution might be to leave the ceiling in place and post pictures of the trusses so the public can see and appreciate them. The petitions presented to the town council last summer with over 1,000 signatures specifically asked that there be collaboration with the Historic Preservation Commission. At the HPC meeting on July 18th, the town's attorney reiterated the value of the commissioner's expertise and the importance of clear communication between all the parties involved in the renovation of the bandstand. Clear, direct, respectful communication between all parties would help prevent costly mistakes and misunderstandings as we go through this process. I hope that going forward, the council and town staff will make every effort to involve the Historic Preservation Commission in every step of this process. I'd like to once again urge the town to seek grants to help pay for renovating the bandstand. There is $200,000 set aside in the budget, but that is Clarkdale taxpayer money. It may not seem like a lot of money compared to the millions of grants that are coming into the town for other projects, but surely it's money that could be used elsewhere in next year's budget. Also, if federal and state grants are used for this renovation, it would make it harder for anyone to attempt to demolish the bandstand in the future. When state and federal grants are made, accountability is expected for how that money is used. It would help ensure the bandstands are repaired properly, maintained for the future. Hopefully by utilizing grants, it would prevent another unfortunate situation like we found ourselves in the last few months. Lastly, I'd like to suggest retiring the historic bandstand from hosting music concerts. It is, after all, an antique. It was never meant for that. It's far from the ideal ideal concert venue. I haven't talked to anyone involved in putting on concerts that's happy with it in that capacity. So let it host weddings, Christmas decorations, but perhaps the concerts in the park could be moved to Selma Mangini Park. I don't remember if the latest plan for that park includes a venue, but it's not too late to put one in with all the bells and whistles that Joni would like and the Parks and Rec Commission would like. In the meantime, using portable stages for concerts in the park seems to be working out fine. That was a really good idea to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak in public comment? Hearing none, why don't we move on to item 4, staff introductions. It's my pleasure to introduce our new Human Resources Director, Angela Benavides. Angela, please stand up and so we can say hello to you. Angela lives in Cornville. Yes. And we are happy to have her aboard. Okay, I just understand she's a foodie, so, okay. We look forward to getting to know you more and getting to know all of us, but welcome to the town of Clarkdale.
Welcome.
You're welcome, welcome. Let's move on to item 5, departmental reports. In our packets were the building permit report, magistrate court report, water wastewater report, town area, Cottonwood area transit report. I noticed it was in a new format, so.
Thank you, Virginia.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. Police Department report and the Humane Society report. Were there any comments anybody wanted to make on those reports? Okay, if not, they are all part of the packet that is presented for council. Let's move, before we get started with, before we go any further, I'd like to do a little rearranging of our agenda. And when we get to new business, I would like to move item, let me see what it is, item D, 7D up to first item for that new business tonight, if that afternoon, if that's okay with everybody. Yes. Okay. Consent agenda, we have several items on consent today. I think there's like 8 items. We have approval of the council minutes, resolution making appointments to design review, resolution making appointments to Park and Recreation Commission, resolution making appointments to Planning Commission, resolution making appointments to Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, resolution making appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission, request to waive fees for APS extension for the arsenic treatment plant, and release of deed restriction for the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Are there any items that council members wish to pull for discussion? Hearing none, I will take a motion on consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items A through H.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember O'Neill and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunstetter to approve consent agenda items A through H as presented.
One
Yes,
comment, thank you to all the commissioners who are serving. We are grateful for your service.
Thank you.
echoed here. Absolutely. Thank you all, those who are coming on to serve and those who have served and no longer going to serve. So thank you all for your service to our boards and commissions. So any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve consent agenda items A through H, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Okay, let's move on to new business, and we will take item 7D, which is the Yavapai Apache Nation Land Exchange. And I have Susan Guthrie's doing the presentation on that. And we will, if it's okay with council members, open it to public comment. We have in the audience the tribal chairwoman for the Yavapai Apache Nation.
Mayor and council, we received a letter from actually the National Forest Service asking us giving us the opportunity to comment on this land exchange. And I think everyone has struggled a little bit to understand exactly what's being exchanged for what. And I think I put in your cover sheet, to look at those initial maps and see what is being given by the National Forest. And then the last few maps were what was being swapped with the Yavapai Apache Nation. But thankfully today, we do have the chairwoman here, and I think she'll do a way better job of explaining kind of the behind the scenes and the purpose and the benefits of this land exchange. So can we turn it over to her, ma'am?
Yes, we can. Chairman Lewis, come on up to the podium. Just state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident. But first of all, I want to say welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Lewis. I'm the chairwoman for the Yavapai Apache Nation. Before I begin, if it's okay with the council, that I would like, because this is an important part of who we are as Yavapai Apache people, I'd like to do my introduction in my traditional language, which is the Apache language. if that's fine.
Mhm,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tapos she Tanya Lewis Ponce, Yavapai Delje Nation, Den Shle Delje Hati, Standing Walnut and Sling, Shima, Ether Lewis Hotsene, Shita Lyman Lewis Hotsene, Ashon. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Lewis. As stated, I'm the chairwoman for the Yavapai Apache Nation. I am of the Standing Walnut clan, which, as we know, is a significant tree that stands throughout our valley. I am deep rooted here. I am a former Clarkdale resident. I was born and raised here on the Clarkdale Reservation. The cement behind us, I used to go swimming there as a child. I did go to school at the Clarkdale Jerome School up through 8th grade. I did graduate from Mingus Union High School. My parents are the late Ethel and Lyman Lewis, who lived here to their last days on the Clarkdale Reservation. I now reside in the Toonlee community in Camp Verde. So with our land exchange, thank you for the opportunity to be here and address anything that you have. But just to give you just a quick background, I don't want to take too much of your time. Is back in 1871, then President Grant had assigned us to 20 miles east and west of the Verde River as our reservation lands. So as you can imagine how far 20 east and west of the Verde River was the initial Yavapai Apache reservation lands. There's maps. I didn't bring any, but there are maps available. In 1875, we were at the stroke of a pen, we were asked to leave our homelands, which our tribe, we are prisoners of war. So we were forced marched out of the Verde Valley, and we were taken to San Carlos Reservation, which is over 2,200 miles southeast of here. So of course, it's near the Globe area is where that reservation is located. So we were held prisoners of war for over 20 years, which we were held there at gunpoint and captive. Until then, we were allowed to leave on our own, which some of us stayed there. That's why we have family there in San Carlos. We also made our way back to here, the Verde Valley. When we came home to the Verde Valley, let me remind everybody that in 1871, we had 575,000 acres is our original reservation. If you go back prior, our Aboriginal land stretched much further than that. Today, we sit at 1,800 acres total for the Yavapai Apache Nation. Those of us who are familiar with my tribe, the original lands we came back to is what we call the Middle Verde District, which is our headquarters for the Yavapai Apache Nation. We do have a small parcel in Rimrock. We have parcels in the Toonlee community, which is where the Conoco Marketplace gas station is. We have our housing development, our housing department. We have parcels here in Clarkdale, which we finished developing Quail Heights across the street from the Smith Mountain Road. We also have additional lands here in the Clarkdale area. So that is what we have. So that's going from 575,000 acres to what we have 1,800. As I said, we came back to the Middle Verde District. A lot of the lands we have today that are in trust, we've had to buy back. Our nation has bought little by little by little. So with this land exchange, it's very important to our people. Obviously, if you can look back then, what was there? So you have all of Cottonwood, you have Sedona, you have Prescott, you have Prescott Valley, you have Clarkdale. This is our home. This is our home, and we have become good neighbors to all our surrounding communities. We help where we can, and we're good partners when we can, when we have the opportunity to be there. But that's who we are, and that's what we believe. So with this land exchange, what the Yavapai Apache Nation is doing, we are exchanging to the Forest Service. We have 4,780 acres that we are swapping with the Forest Service. In return, we are getting 3,200 acres. So with this land exchange, that will take us to just over 5,000 acres from our original 575,000 acres. So this is very important to our people for the economy. It's important for jobs. It's important for housing. Our housing list is 100 strong constantly. That list never goes down. It only gets longer. We have a lot of our elders who come home, who want to come home wherever we are across the United States or across the world. Some of us live across the world, and we're ready to come home. So we want to be able to provide that for our people to come home, to work home. I have a nephew who lives in Illinois who started his family and he wants to come home, but he can't. We don't have the housing to do that for development. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate you listening to who we are and what we come from.
We appreciate very much your story, because it's important to understand why this exchange is so important to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Tribal Chair. Any questions? Yes.
Not a question, but thank you so much for coming here. We appreciate your time, your dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes.
There's no question in my mind that we should support this. The nation are wonderful neighbors to us and they are asking for our support and it hurts us not at all. It supports all of us to give our support.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If we have no questions or further comments, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we write a letter in support of the land exchange between the Yavapai Apache Nation and the U.S. Forest Service.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve a letter of support to the Forest Service for the Yavapai Apache land exchange. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Thank you so much for coming.
Which means today's a good day. Thank you. It means a lot to us.
Means a lot to us too. Thank you so much,
Chairwoman.
Okay, let's move on to back to 7A, purchase of a new dump truck for Public Works Department. And I think we have Lou Anderson who's presenting. Lou.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Lou Anderson, Public Works Department. This is a request to replace one of our dump trucks. It's 26 years old. It has over 200,000 miles. We got a quote. It's $87,500. We'd appreciate council support.
Any?
That was just a look of my face.
Oh my gosh, a new dump truck. How many miles on the current one?
200,000, and we've seen a lot of issues. We've replaced the turbo and it's not gonna last
not
much
doing
longer.
well.
So we're gonna go ahead and auction it off. If we can get anything from it, we will.
That's fine. That's fine. This is within the budget.
Yes, we have 380,000 budgeted.
80,000 budget, okay, we're only using 87, almost 88,000 on this.
There's got to be a good story there.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve I approve that we authorize the town manager to sign all documents necessary to execute the purchase of a 2023 Chevrolet dump truck from Midway Chevrolet for the amount of $87,590.69.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Person, seconded by Councilmember Jones to authorize the town manager to go forward with the purchase from Midway Chevrolet for a new 2023 Chevrolet dump truck in the amount of $87,590.69 for the Public Works Department. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. We look forward to seeing the new dump truck.
Okay, we'll make that happen.
Thank you, Lou. Next item on the agenda is the reroute of the sewer main under Town Park. Yay.
Yes.
I believe Lou is up here to give us that report also.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is obviously 5 months ago, you had the park backup for the sewer, mostly because of the tree roots going through our old sewer line there. Staff and our engineering consultant came up with a plan to reroute the connection instead of going back through the park and tearing the park up, spending who knows how much, maybe around $500,000. We're going to go down 11th Street and tie into First South. We got a quote through the Gordian contract from SJ Anderson, and the dollar amount is $123,000.
Yeah.
Talking with the contractor today, he said he could, once we get a PO, he could have his crew out within maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. Any questions for Lou? Yes. Lisa.
Hi. I understand, it is my understanding that a lot of the sewer backup was not only tree roots, but also grease. Do we have a plan to identify and mitigate the disposal of grease?
That's a good question. I know we've got our jetter and we've been using that in the lines. We've done an assessment of our lines as far as how congested they are and what their flows are. So we know where we need to target the jetter to go in and clean the lines to help prevent that in the future. As far as a campaign with the citizens, I think we've done that occasionally. However, I've only been here 6 weeks, so I don't know what we've done.
And I could add that we actually do have it's called a fog ordinance. It's fats, oils, and greases. And I know that Lisa and Lou and I have talked about trying to pinpoint where this is coming from because it's noticeable. We even then see it on the actual plant side of these oils coming through. So they're working to pinpoint where it's coming from and just making sure that people aren't disposing of large amounts of cooking oil or grease in their sewer lines because it hardens when it hits those tree intrusions and it's just pretty impenetrable.
We did have a backup this last week with grease that caused that, so.
Mhm. Any other questions? Just
More of a comment. Thank you to you and your team for really thinking about this and not just signing the PO for $500,000, but figuring out how we can solve this problem for the citizens without tearing up the whole park.
Did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any other comments?
I just want to second that because I think the initial sticker shock that it could cost $500,000 to fix the problem was nothing but sticker shock. Second sticker shock. There we go. And so the idea that we can do this for $125,000 approximately, and hopefully find a solution. And I know that you've been putting it in the newsletter and that about encouraging people not to flush the unflushables and oils and all that. And I think we need to come up with some catchy buttons that we all wear, not flushing our fat. I don't know. But, because it does cause such problems that are incredibly costly. I mean, so.
And unpleasant.
And
And
unpleasant.
unpleasant.
And yeah, for the backup, for the folks whose homes get backed up into, that's really.
Very unpleasant.
It's really unpleasant. So thank you for going and figuring out a solution that will work. And hopefully we all as a community can figure out what's going on in addition to what the town is trying to pinpoint.
And Lou said the 6 weeks. I mean, it's been just dramatic action since he's been here. So I don't want to diminish the 6 weeks because it's been wonderful.
A great team.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, for the public to know, this is a very old system. We know it's it's a 100-year-old system. It is fragile. And we are seeing some problems with so many things being flushed down these lines. This is not the only one we're going to be seeing. We know that there's a couple others in town that are very similar in condition. So we know we'll be seeing stuff back here for replacement of those lines too. But I think it's worth the public knowing how much this old system is starting to show its age. I think is a good way to say it, with tree intrusions and just stuff that shouldn't be going down the sewer lines, and taking as much caution as possible so we can hopefully not have everything get plugged up at once. Is that kind of the situation, would you
Yes.
say?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that.
Okay, if there's no more questions for Lou, I'll take a motion on this one.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the S.J. Anderson Company proposal in the amount of $123,644.18 and authorize the town manager to sign all documents necessary for the installation of an alternative sewer main and manholes and the abandonment of the 8-foot sewer line under Town Park.
Is there a second to that?
8-inch. 8-inch. Thank you.
8-inch. Is there a
I'll
second
second.
to that motion? Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve the proposal from S.J. Anderson Company in the amount of $123,644.18 and authorize the town manager to execute all documents necessary for the rerouting of the sewer line under Town Park to First South and the abandonment of that 8-inch sewer line under the park. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Thank you so much on that one. No more questions about this hole in the middle of 11th Street. It's going to get done. Thank you, Lou, and to your staff for bringing this to us. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda is updating the town fee schedule. And I believe Julie Goucher, our finance director, is going to begin the discussion. This is going to be kind of long because we have several items in this area. I know it took up a lot of the packet for the agenda. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you. We began talking about fees back in January during the budget deliberation process. And at that time, we had asked all of our departments to look at their fee schedules and come up with any recommendations, providing justification and their methodology, looking at comparable fees in other communities, and then provide recommendations on changes. The last time that the fees had been looked at was 2019.
I think something's coming up on the screen.
Keep talking through when Charity can catch up with me. So in accordance with the Arizona revised statutes, the town had posted the proposed fees on the website for 60 days. In addition to that, we also published the notice of intent for fee changes in our social media and also in the newspaper on July 16th and July 23rd. So there are fee recommendation changes being proposed today, and those are coming from our police department, public works, community development, and parks and recreation. The departments are here today and they're going to provide presentations on each of their fee increases. So if you want to go ahead and advance to public works first. Virginia's going to talk a little bit about the cemetery fees.
Okay, welcome, Virginia.
There we go. It's been a few minutes since I've looked at this. I did briefly go back over it. This was all calculated out of M+ work orders history previous to our transition to iWork. We log all of the work hours and equipment that is put into all of the cemetery burials. And the result is that we are not covering our costs. The amount of labor and equipment use that goes into a single burial
The average is about 20 hours that goes in man hours to a single open and close. That includes opening the grave, being there to observe the burial for the service, and then closing. It requires 3 people to safely put the dome back in once the casket has been laid and then closed, which is why there is seemingly a tremendous increase. We have not increased this fee in quite some time. The cost for the domes is simply a materials matter. We did investigate back in 2019 when we reviewed fees, some alternatives for domes. Every single alternative that we came up with was double the cost of what we currently use. It's a cement dome that we purchased from a company out of Phoenix. So we do periodically go back and review. Unfortunately, we cannot find anything cheaper. We used to have services available Monday through Saturday, and we only charged overtime, the true overtime flat fee of $500 on Saturdays. However, our public works crew works 4 10s, which means I'm actually paying them overtime when I have a Friday burial. So we'd like to alter such that that overtime flat fee applies to both Friday and Saturday. We're still keeping Sundays and holidays as no services. And that is an explanation. You have any questions for me?
No, thank you for doing the work to see that costs were covered. Thank you.
Who's next, Charity? Police Department.
Hi, I'm just waiting for my intro.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First off, thank you very much for everything this last couple of weeks. It means a lot. So with that said, you can't ask me any questions. No, I'm just kidding. As you can see, and I know you've read over the methodology on why we want to raise the fingerprints. In full transparency, the actual hard cost, just a hard cost of having someone sitting at that desk for 4 hours, which is what they do. The hard costs are only $87.50. However, recently we've been fairly busy. We've gotten more than 5 fingerprints card in that 4 hours. Sometimes it gives me as 10. So that means that the other money that's mentioned here, which is $25.70 an hour, comes into effect, because in that the manager then runs the front desk. So while it shows that we are down $190.30, we need to recoup that cost with $75. We'll be bringing it up to $100. $100 is actually more reasonable compared to the $82.50 we currently have. So that's the first fingerprinting that I wanted to discuss with you. We didn't put in the heating, the air conditioning, all the other things that go into that. And we put in $16.50 an hour, well, that's part-time, so it didn't include any benefits, but we also have sick leave and vacation time. So if there's any questions about the first one, I'll be happy to entertain those now. And then we'll talk a little bit about the second one, because I would like to change that.
Do you have any sense there's greater demand for fingerprinting right now? Is that seasonal, or do you anticipate that there will be continued greater demand?
I wish I had a crystal ball, but it seems like there's going to be a greater demand. And the reason there's a greater demand is they have to make appointments elsewhere. They can just come into Clarkdale Wednesday afternoons and do it, but they have to make an appointment to go someplace else. So if they just want to, it just seems like it's a little bit easier to do it here. And a lot of people got used to coming here because we're the only ones that continued to do it during COVID. And so I think that so those people, the teachers and the people that have to have them redone every so often, they've gotten in the habit of coming here.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions for Chief on this? No.
Okay, so the second area that I would like to talk about a little bit is I'd like to amend that if it's at all possible. What you have before you is we didn't charge anybody, but we had a $65 fee because we're trying to recoup the time to to redact videos and get them out. So we had a $60 fee. We learned that was not legal and we hadn't charged anyone. So we took it off the books, although it still shows on the books. What we learned, through no fault of our own, is that actually there's a state bill that's come through. It's House Bill 1148, and it's now passed into law, ARS 39129. And that's going to allow us to charge $46 per hour to do the redaction of videos. And so what I'd like to ask is that it doesn't come into law until October 30th. But what I'd like to ask is that we change that so we don't have to do it again. We just make that, if it's possible,
Yeah.
make that a change in our fee schedule to $46.
So that's what you want amended and added back in is a redaction fee of $46 per hour. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So is that per hour or per report?
No, it's per hour. The statute allows per
Okay.
hour.
Is that reflected there?
I'm sorry?
No, that's.
No,
what
no.
he's-
No, this is being,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were
The
doing,
way it's written, it's like per report, I think. So it's
Well,
not.
so this is the police reports and it says really small, no fee charge for the that we removed the redaction fee because we thought it was illegal, but now it's legal, so you'd like, it will be legal October 31st.
October 30th.
30th, okay, so you wanna add an additional line, so it'll be $20 for fingerprinting, $20 for police reports, $43 an hour for redaction of video.
46.
46.
Yes, 40, correct.
And just
Correct.
to add to what the chief is saying, the reason is it's incredibly time consuming and intense work to go in and redact out of video because you're blurring faces and a lot of other things, so.
Yeah, you have to manually go in and redact everything. You have to review it 2 or 3 times so that there's no juvenile or anyone else that they can see in the background. So it's very time consuming.
it's very time consuming. Okay.
No, but I'm sorry, the second line says police reports digital media. So this is pertaining to redacting of video. Yes. It's not a paper, you're not talking about the reproduction of paper police
No.
reports here.
Actually, I think it's 2 separate lines. I think he wants to add a line.
That's my understanding is we wanna add a line.
Yeah,
Maybe you just make a police Report for an
Well,
accident or something.
it says $20 and then it says plus what's stricken out is $65 an hour if redaction is required. But he wants to change that to the plus $46 per hour.
Right,
That's all we're doing.
There we go.
Yes. Just adding that.
That makes sense then. Okay.
They're just really editing that from 65 to 46.
Clear as mine. Clear as mine.
Yeah, I think we're good. We
I think we got
understand now.
Sorry about that.
So that one's actually going down, but coming back.
It-
Right? Any-
It meets state statute. Yes, Lisa.
I'm not clear, you explained partially, kids' faces and so forth. Who needs things redacted? And do they ask for it or do you just do it?
No, so anything that goes to the county attorney doesn't need to be redacted. But anything, there's a public records request, which we've gotten several recently. When they ask for a video, a domestic violence say, so they say, I want my video, but they don't go through county attorney. They're going through civil court, they'll come and get it from us. And so when that happens, let's say there's 2 officers on scene. We have to go through both of those videos and it lasts an hour. And there's a child involved, or there's someone that's not, that's covered by the law that we can't show their face. It's kind of a little bit easier on electronic, because not electronic video, but electronic reports, because you can put in a name. But in the electronic video, you can outline a face and it can try to keep those faces out, but the software hasn't advanced, the software we use isn't advanced enough to make it simplistic like that. You have to go through the entire hour.
Like cell by cell? Oh
And
my.
then blur the face, is that what you're doing? Is
Yeah.
going and blurring the face?
Thank you.
Is there technology that could make that easier?
There is, and not advertising for Axon, Axon owns it. But it's
We can't afford
it's
it.
very expensive, yes.
You mentioned that we haven't charged anyone this fee yet. Is that just because no one has made a request that would necessitate the fee?
We had it for a very short time, and I want to, I can't, so I can't remember for sure, but I think I talked to Stephen before we made that charge, and he was the one that brought it to our attention that we couldn't charge.
Okay,
But no, we have had requests, we just haven't charged anybody.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you
Good.
so much. I
Thank
think
you.
that's all the
Thank you.
questions we have on this segment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up. Community development. Is Ruth coming in on this one?
Yes, she's online.
Yes, I am.
Welcome,
I
Ruth.
am.
She's online.
Hi. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. So what we did here was two means of methodology. So first we went through and I talked to other jurisdictions about what they were charging for their fees to make sure that regardless of where the hours ended up, we weren't going to be light years ahead of everyone else. I just wanted to make sure that we were pretty much in conformance with all the other communities around us. And many of them had gone through the same exercise in the last few years as well. So then we went through and looked at the hours it takes for the employees involved in these different tasks to complete these projects, to complete a sign permit or to complete the other things that, the other things that we assess fees for, application reviews, preliminary and final development plans. So that we're actually, again, recovering the costs that these project reviews actually include, so that we're not losing money on doing these. And what we discovered is that we were in fact undercharging for a number of these. So what you see here is the current fee that we charge, our proposed fee, and then there's also, you should have gotten a table in your packet that goes through and shows what the justifications are, and then what the what those different activities actually involve. So for instance, if you look at the special event permit, that's the first miscellaneous fee. It shows the current fee is $50, the proposed fee is $100, and for that fee, it averages an hour for the community development tech, an hour for the planner, and about a little less than half an hour for me to review everything. So the tech, which right now is Gus, would take the application in, make sure it's complete, call the applicant if there are things that are missing. Then Tom, the planner, would take a look at it, make sure that it meets all of the code, that there's no special police work or anything done with that. If there is, we have to send it off if they're going to, the application is to close a street or something like that. So we pretty much averaged what an easy one was with one of the more complicated one would be. So that's what we went through for all of these different fees and permits and variances and so forth that we process. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
This is an area that has a lot of different fee categories, so I'm sure that it's not that it's overwhelming, it's just very complicated, not complicated, but thorough, because it has to touch every part of community.
Tedious.
Tedious, that's it. That's a good thing. Yeah. So is there any questions for Ruth on these proposed changes with community development fees?
I have one.
Yes.
It's more of a comment, Ruth. I so appreciated having the local area comparisons. I think that helps a lot and it puts Clarkdale, it's very clear that we are not excessive, your request for change is not excessive. It is cost recovery. So I appreciate all the work that went into this. Thank you.
Thank you. We also reordered the schedule. They were kind of scattered around, so we put all the subdivision fees together. We put all the plat information together, so it's much easier to follow as well, so.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot easier to see what happens in each one of those areas. I appreciate that very much. Any other questions for Ruth?
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you,
Thank
Ruth,
you.
and be well, and we'll hope to see you back soon in the office.
Yeah, I should be back on Monday, so
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Okay, next area. Parks and Recreation. Joni, welcome.
Carry on. Hello. So we're going to talk about Parks and Rec fees and a couple of highlights. Well, actually, I'm going to start with this. As you're aware, we did recently take on a large project in assessing our facility rentals through the DMA process. And through that process, we determined that we're not operating in a cost-efficient way, and that our taxpayers were carrying the burden of that deficit. And so that analysis came a recommendation to adopt a fee that better covered the cost of rentals of the rental facility and prevent it from being subsidized by the general fund, in essence, the taxpayers. We also recognized that the taxpayers, even if they were paying the full cost, were kind of handling the burden of the capital improvement plan. So in other words, our initial assessment, we had two pieces of it. Primarily, it was just to cover cost of general taking care of staff who take care of the building, of the staff who are on site, of the cleaning, et cetera, and preparing the building for facility rentals. We did not include in those fees that we presented at that time, we did not include the capital part of it. So during this process, council recommended that we come back with or present fees that do cover our costs and take that burden off of our taxpayers. As you're aware, in the earlier agenda item for the deed of the clubhouse, we ran into, through that deed, we learned that we, as part of the deed, I'm really stumbling, as part of the deed, it was
Deed restriction.
Restriction.
thank you, a deed restriction that we could not discriminate. And we would not ever discriminate in most cases, but it also included residency, place of residency. So that made it impossible with that deed in place for us to have differentiated fees for Clarkdale residents versus non-residents.
Correct.
But now we have the deed released. And so the initial, the proposed fees that we have here for you were not including the resident and non-resident fees. And so we are going to go there in a minute. I'm going to highlight a couple of things. So that's why the fees are not differentiated on this. And then I wanted to highlight a couple of other things that we had on there, being the gazebo. We increased a fee there because of market rate and use. There's some pretty large events sometimes taking place in that area, and so we wanted to be sure that we were covering the cleanup and the maintenance of the gazebo, et cetera. And then we also added the view deck, which is the covered area where the pool used to be. And we have not been currently charging a fee for that. It's just been included in the cost of a rental. And so we added that in because there is maintenance and cleanup, et cetera, involved in that. We did not designate a Clarkdale resident versus non-resident for that particular fee because it just goes along with the clubhouse rental where they would already be getting that discount. And then also we added the tables and chairs and replacement so that we can continue to have tables and chairs or to have a fee for tables and chairs so that we can cover the replacement.
And that's per table and per chair?
Yes, per chair. And Charity, can you go to that next screen? So I just wanted to remind you, going back to the rental fees, that this is just a good visual to remember how much we were on particularly on large events are losing, and we're losing nearly as much on small events. And then the next screen, I'd like to go back to the fees that we presented at the end of the DMAIC process, which did designate resident and non-resident fees. And so with that, does anyone have any questions?
I think we just want to make it clear to the public that the fees that were posted were not the differentiated fees
No,
for
that's good.
resident and
Correct.
non-resident.
Correct.
So what you're asking is to put, to bring back into the fee schedule, removing that and bringing forward the differentiated fees for residents and non-residents as what came out of the DMAIC process.
So the long and short of it is that staff recommends council approve all fees that have been presented here today, including the Parks and Rec proposed differentiated fees for the facility rentals that were determined through the DMAIC process, and the police department amended reduction fee, and all of these fees being effective, going into effect within 30 days.
Okay, yeah, okay. Is there any questions? Yes.
How does, we are required to post fees? And since we're changing some of the fees that we posted, do we not have to do a new posting?
So we had a long discussion about that today, and we actually pulled up state law. I mean, it's just like the budget, we're required to post it, and then during the budget adoption, you all are allowed to make edits to that. That's purpose of council taking action.
Okay.
Is you're reviewing it and discussing it and determining if you want any changes. You could be removing things, you could do a myriad of changes to what the original proposals were. And in this case, we're also reducing the fee. So I think even more so, it's apropos.
So do we need a special motion to approve this, or will it be?
Yeah, that's included in the language that
We'll have
Joni
it.
just provided.
We'll have it for the main motion. So is this all the fees that we're presenting? Are there other?
Actually, there was one additional or several additional that pertain to the Verde River at Clarkdale Outfitter
thank
licensing deposits. So we changed the deposits based on, instead of a percentage of the trips that they request, it's based on, although that is kind of how how we calculated it, but it's basically on the number of trips that they request, they are required to pay a set deposit for the year.
Okay, okay. And this is reflective of the new agreement with state parks for as best we can.
Yeah, and actually, this particular fee was just to simplify the process. We actually had something really wonky in there that didn't reflect what.
So you've made this clearer?
Yes, we
Okay.
took out, there was an annual fee of $3,000 plus $5 per customer in
Oh, I
excess of
gotcha.
600 customers annually. So that was technically what should have been happening. This is much more simplified and a much better way for us to go. And I also did want to mention we did add a cleaning fee to this schedule, which was something brand new. And this is to cover the cost. If we have to bring in a cleaning company, we did the research to learn how much it would cost to have someone come in for a one-time clean in the facility, and that was the charge. So if we needed to bring someone else in, then we could charge, we have the opportunity to charge that fee to renters.
And that's for the clubhouse here.
That's for
yeah.
the clubhouse. Yeah, I know, I'm all over the
That's
place.
fine. That's fine. Yes.
Hi, Joni. So I just want to clarify about the Verde River at Clarkdale, because when I was on Parks and Rec, it was hard to budget the fee because it was always based on how many actual bodies they took down the river. So now we get the same amount of the same amount of money based on what they think they're gonna do, not what they actually do.
Well, actually, it's a little more complicated than that.
Okay.
This is just the deposit. So this is at the beginning of the season. We say, just in case you bail out on your business for the rest of the season, we need a deposit to cover, some loss that we might incur. So with that, and we hold that deposit, most of the time anymore, we've been just rolling over the deposit year to year, because basically we give them a check back at the end of the year and they would have to issue us another check a week later or the same day, whatever. So, so we worked that out with finance. But the piece that you're talking about of the trip of the customers that they request, customer units that they request per season, they are actually required to pay 85% of that dollar amount of those customers. So in other words, if they say I'm going to run 4,000 trips, they're going to pay 4,000 customers, they're going to pay 85% of that back to us. They're liable to pay that regardless. So we watch those numbers all year to make sure that they're within there, because what we were finding is people were saying, I'll run 4,000 trips and then they run 1,500.
Yeah.
And then we can't budget with that. Now we can budget because we know that they're going to be liable for the 85%. So that helps. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. And thank you for all of your work in the DMAIC process to make sure that our residents are not subsidizing other people's parties.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments for Joni on this?
No, I appreciate, I have a big picture question that maybe, how, I'm looking at you, because I'm going to ask the question to you. How often, what is standard for like updating fees like this for a town? Like, do you do it every year? Do you do it every 4 years? I'm just, because I know it's a big process, so I'm not suggesting we do it every year, but I'm just curious if you have a sense of what.
And I'll let Guthrie chime in too, but in my experience, it's like every 3 to 5 years, we'll do a kind of an overview of all of the fees, do a new comp, update, look at how our labor rates have changed, look at how the cleaning fees have changed and all. Is that even your
Yeah,
experience as well?
That's my experience as well. Sometimes during the budget process, one will really rise to the surface where all of a sudden a cost for something is doubled. And so we'll bring it forward. But generally every 3 to 5 years, because it's a tremendous amount of work, you can
Yeah,
see.
no, it is.
Yeah.
I don't, that's.
So we're way overdue here, right?
Yes.
Right where we should be. Oh. So, yeah,
Okay,
we did some increases in 2019 and now, but some weren't like 2017. We don't increase all fees. These are just the ones that have had dramatic changes that we needed to amend. Okay. Thank you.
Can we say that we want to do it every 4 years or something like that? I mean, it would then feel like everybody would know, like every 4 years, we're going to look at these, unless there's something that rises, that it needs attention. But otherwise, we have a schedule that we look at every 4 years, we look at our fees, and then people know, then the community knows, and we know, and.
We were
I mean, I don't
actually,
know if that makes sense. but-
yeah, we're actually, Julie is in the process of updating your FOG and FOG Financial Operations Guide. We're probably bringing that to the next meeting, so we can add that as a recommendation,
should,
but
yeah.
that we still look at things annually if something's just jumping out. I think, certain costs, I think Virginia this year, our chemical cost doubled at least. So, I mean, all of a sudden, we'll be watching an account going, what's going on? Why are we not tracking with the percentage that the month should be? And then we'll notice some commodity greatly increase. So we'll watch those things, but we can put in the FOG that we recommend doing a wholesale review every 4 years, if that's what you guys like.
It's just a thought.
I think there's kind of agreement, that's not a bad idea to have that in our financial operating guide.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
2027, we
I
review
think
it again.
that's good.
Thank
That's
you.
good. That's good. Any other questions? Wow. A lot of good work. Thank you. Yeah, for staff for putting this all together, because we know doing fee schedules is labor intensive. It takes time. You've got to come up with your costs, make sure we're covering them, and coming up with the appropriate fee, trying to guess what that's going to be, and with a number of people that come in and stuff. So I appreciate all the work so much that all of you have done. And I am happy that we get to have the right fee for this facility, for this building, for its use, and for some of the capital improvements that we know are going to happen. We have to try to build some reserves for that. I'm glad that it has clear title now. That was the biggest thing, was to get clear title, because we had an easement on this building that really stopped us from doing the right thing for the people of the town of Clarkdale. So that we cleared that up, we can go forward, and I really appreciate all of that work. I know it was, I think Joni's hair got even wider during all of that. But it was worth doing, because I think all of us look at this building in a very precious way. And it's used a lot. It's wanted, a lot of people want to use it. And we just have to make sure that it's taken care of. So with that, if council will let me do it, I'd like to make the motion. It's allowed. Chairs are allowed to make motions on all of this. So I would like to make a motion to approve all fees that have been presented today and in our packet, because we readopt all of the fees, including the Parks and Recreation proposed differentiated fees for facility rentals that were determined during the DMAIC process, and the police department's amended redaction fee, addition of that, $46 per hour, effective 30 days from today. That is my motion. Is there a second?
Should we also call it out that's resolution 1704?
Yes, and this would be resolution 1704 as
And
presented.
amending 1640.
And amending 1640.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll second that.
You're right, second, yes, 1704 and 1640. Is that correct? Make sure I have all the correct resolutions. Yeah.
Approving 1704.
Okay.
Amending 1640.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I second it.
Okay. We have a motion to approve all, to approve all fees presented here today with the amendments to resolution 1704 and 1640. That moved by Mayor Prudhomme Bauer and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunstetter. Again, thank you. And is there any further comments on this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Yay, we
Woo-hoo.
have a fee schedule. Yay.
Good
And a
job, everybody.
recommendation.
Good job.
Okay, let's move on to 7E, intergovernmental agreement between the town of Clarkdale and the state of Arizona on Broadway overlay phase 2. Lou,
Thank you.
yay, this is another big one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have completed design on phase 2 Broadway. We applied for a perfect exchange with NACOG, and Guthrie and staff were able to get that done for $664,780. We'll be adding sidewalk drainage from the Elks to the border of Cottonwood. So we're just asking for your approval of that IGA today.
Any comments on this? Yay. This has been, this is a regular thing we've been planning. It's in our budget. We're ready to get this done. We know the Bicycle Coalition will be ecstatic and happy that there'll be bike lanes along there. It'll be a walking path. Yes, and it'll just be safer all around. The road really needs it. So I appreciate this coming forward and getting Broadway done. And we are taking care of a couple of spots in the first phase area that needed to be fixed.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We do have our phase 1 Broadway project. We had a couple of things that didn't go quite right. So we're gonna address drainage at the Elks at the corner, which I hear is called Lake Clarkdale. And
Yeah,
a
I
couple
heard
other items, but we're just waiting for design. We should be pretty close to bringing that to you in the next month.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you know
Yes.
what the timeline is on this
Yeah.
project?
Good question.
Yeah, as you know, these contracts with the state can be time consuming. We waited several months just to get the contract. So now, once we execute it, it will go to the state, they'll execute it, we'll get it back. Then we anticipate having construction early spring.
Okay, great. But Marnie, was that your question or you have another one?
I was going to give a motion if you're
Okay.
open.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for the Broadway overlay phase 2 project between the town of Clarkdale and the state of Arizona.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve the IGA intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona for the Broadway overlay phase 2 project as presented. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Yes, we get to have a. We get excited.
We've been talking about it for lots of years.
We get so excited about these things. This is.
It's
so
nice
great.
to move forward.
It's nice
It is.
moving forward. This is a big one. Item F on the agenda is the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Clarkdale and Yavapai County Flood Control District. And I believe Lou gets to present this also.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is our intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai Flood Control District. Each year, we're allocated $50,000 to work on flooding situations in our town. And so we're just asking that you approve this IGA for this year.
This is pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward. I'm glad that we're continuing to seek these funds. We use them for a lot of important things around the community.
This is drainage is a never ending situation for the town. So anytime we can tackle them, it's we need to get them done.
So
Yes.
I'm curious, and you may not know the answer to this, but how is this $50,000 amount allocated? I mean, And does every town get $50,000 or does the county give to every town based on
Yeah.
road mileage or population?
I
or-
don't know the methodology to calculate it. A lot of these types of grants are based upon population, but I don't know off the top of my head, but it has been $50,000 since I've been here. But one example of how we used this since I've been here is there was the sidewalk area down by Copper Penny Park that continued to flood all the time. And so some of the money was used for that a couple of years ago. And then this last year, really critically, remember we were having the erosion along Broadway Road and we were in jeopardy of losing that road because of flooding. And these funds covered the repair of that. So very important, but I don't know how they determine. Usually when they're giving me money, I'm
Yeah, I
usually.
usually curious if anybody,
Yeah,
it
it's-
might go up at some point.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. We can
I
check on
don't,
it.
gosh, it never has. I think it's always been around 50,000.
Right. When I worked for Pinell County, we did the same thing for cities. We get an allocation as a flood control taxing district, and then we would provide that to cities that we represent, small cities generally. So my guess is that this was the allocation designated for Clarkdale, since the county still is our flood control representative. And we haven't taken that on in our delegated authority. So I did talk to the director about partnering on some studies in the future, because the last drainage master plan that we did was in 1994. Oh, so
I
this-
think
this-
it's time.
He was quite interested in Whitman to do that, partner with us on that. So
Good.
this particular allocation, I think we've got some major flooding issues around the cemetery and the Lamplighter complex. So it's affecting some of our roadways. We're probably going to use some of that on that project.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Okay,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion.
yep,
I move that we approve the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Clarkdale and the Yavapai County Flood Control District for fiscal year 23-24 in the amount not to exceed $50,000.
okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Council Member Jones to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Clarkdale and the Yavapai County Flood Control District for FY 23-24 in the amount not to exceed $50,000. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Okay, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? I think Charity has given us our kind of list of proposed items that'll come up over the next couple of council meetings. Of course, you know, that's always subject to change, but anything other than that?
Madam Mayor, I don't have an agenda item, but I would like to invite the public to attend the groundbreaking of Cabello Park, which is Thursday at 9:30. We're all very excited about this.
Thank you for that. Thank you for mentioning that, yes. If we have no further agenda items, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Jones to adjourn the meeting at 4:18 PM. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Thank you all for a wonderful meeting today.
Thank you, ma'am.